Welcome to the Pirate's Eye podcast, produced by the Seton Hall Alumni Engagement and Philanthropy Department. I'm your host, Viannca Velez, fellow pirate of the class of 2010, and each month I'll be sitting down with an alumnus to chat about their career, their life journey, and the role that Seton Hall played in getting them where they are today, or continues to play. I'm so excited to introduce my guest for this episode. So many members of the Seton Hall community know him and know the name. Current Seton Hall Director of Athletics and Recreation and graduate of the class of 1997, Bryan Felt. Bryan joins us today to share his Seton Hall story, some insights into Seton Hall's athletic teams, especially as we gear up for another exciting season of basketball. And he breaks down a topic currently buzzing in college athletics, name, image, likeness, also known as NIL. I even asked Bryan his prediction on how far our men's basketball team will run this season. So if you want the inside scoop, take a listen. Bryan, I want to welcome you to the show. Thank you so much for making the time to be here with us today.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much.
There's so much to jump into, your own Seton Hall story, the current season, your role at Seton Hall, the overall alumni community. But one of the topics that is top of mind for some folks is name, image, likeness. So I want to jump right into there because I feel like you're a really good resource for us to understand what name, image, likeness, or NIL means, and specifically what that means for Seton Hall.
Absolutely. No, I mean, there's not a day that goes by that we don't talk about name, image, and likeness in the Seton Hall Athletic Department. So happy to do so. So name, image, and likeness, for those that might not know, is the opportunity for a student athlete to earn compensation for their name, image, or likeness. So to put that in a example, if you will, of the very simple reason why it now exists in college athletics, let's take two students. Say you have two students at Seton Hall. You have a student that is a soccer player, and you have another student who just, an average general student that comes to school, but they both have the same major. And it just so happens that they're both really good guitarists. They can both play music. They're talented musicians. Well, the general student, the normal student who comes here, can sell recordings online, can, do all kinds of things, via, Spotify or YouTube, and profit off of his ability to play the guitar. The student athlete in the old rules wouldn't have had that opportunity because it was been seen as something that was something they couldn't do as a student athlete. There were restrictions on student athletes. Well, now those rules have certainly loosened, and rightfully so, by the way. And now a student can profit off of their name, image, and likeness. Now, either their ability to do something in that example is one way, or just the idea of them as a student athlete, right? Them being who they are, a good soccer player in this example. Because they are a soccer player, they could actually go and put a social media post out there. Because they play soccer, they could promote a soccer store in a local town and make money for that reason. So all these things that they couldn't do, student athletes, now through the ability of name, image, and likeness is permissible. It has been in action now for about 2 years, almost 2 years, where we're really kind of learning this environment of name, image, and likeness every single day. We're seeing student athletes certainly profit from it, which is what the intent was. We're also seeing name, image, and likeness growing specifically within the main sports of college athletics. So I'm going to talk about the footballs and the basketballs. Those really tend to be the primary sports because they generate revenue and they're on national television, right? So there's the sports that we all know. And, Saturday there's a college football game on. Every night of the week you'll find a college basketball game on. So those student athletes, certainly their opportunities are going to be greater than what you might find as some other sports. So those student athletes are getting a lot of opportunities. But then what's happening is, and it wasn't the intent of NIL, but this is currently the temperature, if you will, of NIL, is that it's being utilized to really kind of, I don't want to say recruit because it really shouldn't be used that way, but it's being utilized in a way to attract players to certain universities by saying, hey,
like a selling point.
Yes, come here. We'll ensure that you can make more money in your NIL opportunity than you could at said other institutions. So it's kind of, there's a lot, and that's why I think we talk about this, because I think if on the very face of it, it was just happening the way it was intended to be, I'm not so sure it would be that big a deal. I mean, we would be appreciative of it. It'd be great. Student athletes that would have the opportunity would go get it. But what's happening is it's become a little bit more. And I think that's why we're having all of these conversations and debates about, should Congress step in? Should the government step in? Well, there are different ways because states have different rules than other states. Like, how is this we have to figure out better ways to mandate it, or the common phrase is find guardrails for it. And that's, I think, the biggest next step that's going to happen in NIL. This thing's going to morph in so many different ways. It continues to change in the 2 years that it's been operable. I mean, we went from when it got announced that the universities could have very little conversation about it or involvement in it. Now we can help fundraise for it. But I think that's the next step in all this explanation is what I think our folks need to know, and specifically our alumni need to know, is you can't make a gift to Seton Hall University or Seton Hall Athletics for NIL. If you have a local business as an alum, you can definitely engage with a student athlete and pay them, compensate them to promote your business. Totally permissible. You can't come to me to help you do it.
Got it.
It has to go directly to the student athlete, or what is a very commonplace now in this NIL world are collectives. And every school and at our level in Division I, we have our own collective, and most schools have collectives, which are groups that operate outside of the university or the athletic department that are helping trying to raise money to create opportunities for student athletes. So our collective is called Onward Setonia, and that is a collective run by several alumni, and they're out there and they've been wonderful, and they check in with us for all compliance reasons and all the things we can help them with, the checks and the balances, but they're out there really doing all of the work to help raise money for this with our guidance, certainly. But and I can help fundraise for it. I can help them fundraise for it, but we can't actually take compensation for it. That has to happen on the outside, really, with a collective or directly to a student athlete. So that's a lot. I know that's a big answer, but that's, and trust me, we've only scratched the surface because it does run pretty deep.
Yeah, no, I think that's really helpful. And I think another piece to the NIL is that there's a level of concern as well for these young people who might be looking at some pretty hefty deals. And what does that mean for such a young person to be in the works of deals that are looking at 6 and 7 figures, and being able to responsibly manage? And how do we use the term guardrail, but also how do we think about the student and protecting the student, and all the things that come with like financial well-being, financial stability, and smart personal finances. So I know that's another level to the conversation as well. As you mentioned, it could just get deeper and deeper and deeper.
It could, yeah. But your point, Bianca, education is critically important, and education is what we're all about. So we've invested a tremendous amount in that as an athletic department to ensure that our student athletes are understanding of tax laws and understanding of contracts, because those are all things now that are very prominent in their world should they be taking advantage of an NIL opportunity. So we provide education modules to them. We bring in guest speakers to really kind of help them with this process. And that is one of my big worries in this world of NIL, right? Like I mean, the IRS is going to have some kind of report at some point after this has gone through a few iterations here, and we're saying, who's not paying their taxes, or these are things they're going to have to learn now. It's great education for them, but we as a department, as an athletic department, our commitment is to ensure that our student athletes do have that education.
Yeah, so critical to the strategy. So thank you for sharing that. And now you have a personal relationship with the entire environment that you're working in as an alum yourself. And so what does Seton Hall mean to you? Where does your story begin? What brought you here in the first place?
Oh, well, it's kind of funny. Yeah, you talked about my connection or my relationship. I came to Seton Hall. This is going to sound, I knew of Seton Hall because of basketball. I grew up, I'm originally from North Jersey. I'm originally from Berkeley Heights, New Jersey. Jersey, born in Jersey, loved Jersey, lived in Jersey most of my life. But I didn't really grow up in Jersey. My formidable years, really, if you will, from late elementary school through the end of high school and graduating high school, was in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. Okay. And I mean, I left Jersey when I was like 8. And so this was like 1989, which we all have our 1989 stories at Seton Hall. And 89, I watched on TV this miraculous run by this small Catholic school from New Jersey, beat Duke and, go all the way to the championship game, the whole deal. And I was captivated, just I think like most all of us in the Northeast, but certainly across the country. And I became a fan. Honestly, I really did. I became a fan as a freshman in high school that year, and I never lost it. You know that, and the teams were really good those years in the early '90s too. So I was really just a big fan. I grew up in Villanova country. Grew up in Villanova and Temple country, and I was just so fixated on it. And I was a broadcast. I wanted to be a broadcast journalism major. I knew it at a young age. I was very into that idea of production and even being in front of cameras and things like that. So Seton Hall to me was near New York City. So I was like, whoa, like I love this basketball team. What they're doing got me so intrigued. And New York City, that's where I want to get back to. I want to go there. And so it just kind of it clicked for me. And I came here in I didn't come at first. I transferred in after I went to a junior college for a year, and came here in 19, I guess it would be 1994. I arrived on this campus. So but basketball is what turned me on to Seton Hall. And that's how I learned of it, really, you know.
So help me understand, because you come to Seton Hall, you're in love with Seton Hall basketball. That's what draws you in. That's what, a lot of your career has to do with afterward. But that wasn't initially the route, right? So you came in, you're looking at broadcast, you transition, you do work in television and production. Is that right?
I did, yeah, for several years, yeah, after college. Yeah.
And then you make your way back. So how does that happen?
Yeah, some days I don't even know the answer to that question because it just feels like a blur. But so yeah, I was very fortunate during my time at Seton Hall, and I learned. I mean, what Seton Hall has given to me, I don't even think there's a podcast that could capture it because it's literally
Yeah.
been one of the most influential things in my life has been this university, and the people part of it. But I consider that's what that the whole thing is. I encompasses everything, right? I mean, I met my wife
Absolutely.
here for God's sakes. I mean, everything happened here. So I came back. So I graduated Seton Hall. I was very fortunate. Broadcast journalism. I did internships when I was here. Got a job at MSNBC before I really had even graduated. That had offered me a full-time position, and really just hit the ground running. Production assistant, associate producer. Kind of worked my way through MSNBC, NBC. Finished at CNN for a little while, and I got a phone call. I kind of had known I was in television news. I always thought it'd be more entertainment or sports, but I really was kind of my success or my early, very moderate success was in television news. And I didn't know if that was really where my future lied. So I was really starting to question my next steps. And I had a really one of my poignant phone calls was from a friend of mine named Michael Oakes, who was a basketball manager during my time here. So I knew him because I worked in the athletic department as a student. And Michael's like, "Hey, listen, you have any interest in fundraising?" My initial answer was no, absolutely not. I don't even know. I didn't really know what it was. I was like, "That's a job." And he's like, "Yeah, you'd be great. You should come over here. We're looking for some fundraisers." This was maybe a year. It was almost a year after the fire in Boland, and they were trying to retool the fundraising department and advancement department, if you will. And I just was like, I don't know, Mike. It sounds very far-fetched to me. I had just been married about a month before he had called me, 2 months before he called me, and again, my wife comes through here with the save, and she's like, "You really should think about this. You love Seton Hall. She went to Seton Hall. She's like, wouldn't it be great? Go back and get your master's." I was like, I didn't want my master's. I was like, no, it's not. I don't know
No,
what you're
that
talking
sounds
about.
terrible.
It just none of the things that I'm doing now were ever in the cards at that time in my life, 2001, 2002. I just never imagined it. And some days I still can't figure out how it happened. But so eventually I took the interview, had an amazing time on the interview, still was totally dumbfounded as what am I going to do with fundraising. Somehow they gave me the job, and I was running like the university phone-a-thon. It was a entry level really fundraising job, and I think I learned probably in that first year that fundraising wasn't what I thought. Right, I get it. It's the art of it's you ask for money, and it was really just relationships. At the end of the
Yeah,
day, it was full on 99.9% relationships, and I was like, well, I could do that.
exactly.
I said, so I can talk about Seton Hall with people, build a relationship, and then I just got to work in. Hey, we're looking to raise some money for this project. Would you be interested? I was like, I think I can figure this out. And I mean, I don't know if I figured it out, but it got me where I needed to go, and I did it for a while, and I loved every minute of it. And listen, fundraising is still a huge aspect of the job I have here now. But to get to the final point of your question, I worked in fundraising for many years, 16 years here. I thought I would
Wow.
literally be here. The plan was, I was going to be here, get my master's, because my wife kept telling me, you should get your master's. And I was probably going to go back to TV. And 16 years later, that was gone. And I was fortunate enough to get an athletic director job. And I realized as I did fundraising for the university and then eventually for athletics, that I was like, wow, this could be a pathway to something really great. And I never would have imagined in a million years about being an athletic director. It just never was a thought. And and look at what happened.
So now, then you took a little hiatus from Seton Hall. We said our farewells to you. You went to St. Peter's, and then we welcomed you back home. And so, how did it feel to come back after working at St. Peter's for a bit?
I truly, actually, it was, oh my God, it was amazing. I was pretty emotional about it actually because I never thought I'd come back, not in a negative way. And
Sure.
understand that, like, you know what I'm saying? I figured, all right, I got to go be an AD. I want to go be an AD. And
Yeah.
Pat Lyons, by the way, I want to give him a mention. Pat Lyons was the athletic director here while I worked here for many of my years and was a tremendous mentor. And he gave me great advice. He's like, listen, you got to go do this. There's no
Yeah.
training wheels on this job, at this level. You're gonna have to go
Right.
do it maybe at a little lower level. And I was like, yeah, it's great advice. You're right. And I was very fortunate because I got the opportunity to go be the athletic director at St. Peter's, which was another small Catholic school in New Jersey. I didn't have to move my family. There's only 300 and there's only
Mm,
350 of these jobs. There's only 350
wow.
Division I AD jobs around that number. I thought for sure I'd probably have to move my family, and I am married to a Jersey girl, so that was not going to be really an option, I didn't think. So the fact that St. Peter's came into my life was extraordinary. I have a special place in my heart for everyone at St. Peter's and for my time there. And then I spent 2 years there. I thought it would have been much, much longer, and I got a phone call that said that this job was going to be open and would I have interest in applying? And I was like, well, yeah, of course I would. But I just couldn't. I actually couldn't even believe it, and went through the process and I'm back home again.
And
Who could imagine?
we're so happy to see it. We're so happy to see
Well, you're
it.
very kind.
Now we're gearing up. We're gearing up for a tremendous season in Seton Hall basketball. We have Holloway back for the second season. What are the things that you are excited about? What are the things that our Seton Hall community should be excited about? Give us the inside scoop.
It's pretty extraordinary that, by the way, that I not only got to come home, but I got to bring my guy home back home with me. Like we both got
Right.
to kind of do this. Like I hired him at St. Peter's, and then to hire him back here, it really is kind of storybook in a weird way. And him and I
Yeah.
talk about it pretty frequently. Um, Other than having Sheen Holloway back on campus, he was obviously an amazing student athlete here. Has been a great coach as an assistant coach for many years, and now to be our head coach and what he did at St. Peter's in his time it was amazing.
Right.
So it's great to be with him again. I think people noticed the excitement with our program. I think everyone felt it. I've been to a lot of press conferences in my day. Shaheen Holloway's press conference last year when he returned and got this job in April of last year could be one of the most truly just absolutely amazing moments I've ever had in any job. And to see the Seton Hall community embrace somebody the way they did with Shah coming back and all that was amazing. So it's really cool. And you felt that excitement then, you still have it now. He's done a nice job. He's continuing to every day to kind of build what he wants here, his vision, what he's looking for in a basketball team. I think if you watch what he did at St. Peter's, it's a lot of he put a lot of the building blocks together that he's going to do here as well. He likes a group that really knows how to buy in. He's all about team. He has all these great, just fundamental things that he's such a believer in, and he will put that together. It is a new and different time, as we talked about, a little while ago with NIL. So it certainly isn't an easy task.
Yeah.
But he's done a heck of a job. He's got a young group this year. He's got young men from all different places, and that's kind of the way you have to put together a team now in the name, image, and likeness world and the transfer world. So he's done that. He's excited about his group. I think while they certainly are unproven, they have high expectations of themselves. They work incredibly hard, and I think he really loves the fact, and I do too, that they're going to be very under the radar. And we hope to what we'll do is surprise a lot of people. But I think our fans, they looked at Shah that way, right? And he's a guy that looks, make me the underdog, please, I dare you. That's all I want. And he embraces that. I think our fan base embraces that, and we're excited for the season ahead.
Oh, I'm sure of it. I think a lot of people are excited for the season ahead. So we're looking forward to jumping in and riding that roller coaster. And I want to show some love to the other Seton Hall sports, right? Because
Please.
we're a big basketball school. And so talk to me a little bit about what you all in the athletic department might be excited about in terms of the rest of the Seton Hall athletics department.
I will tell you this. I think all of our sports are trending in that right direction, and we've had some really tremendous success in the last several years. Last year, our women's softball team was Big East champions, which was I was there in Connecticut. They went on an absolutely monumental run in the Big East tournament to beating DePaul, beating Villanova, beating UConn, just beating teams that were some of the bigger teams in the conference in terms of softball, and went on a great run. Got to go to the NCAA tournament down in Texas. Angie Churchill, who's our coach in softball, has done a simply just tremendous job. We won the year before. We won the men's golf championship, and another great success story with our golf program. We've won a men's soccer Big East championship in the last few years. So our sports are really doing a nice job. Women's soccer had one of the best seasons in their history this year. Volleyball is on the verge of making the postseason for the first time in quite some time, probably like 7 or 8 years at least. So
Wow.
a lot of our sports are really trending the right way. Baseball continues to be just one of the foundational sports in our program. I always say, listen, you're talking about the Shepard family and Rob Shepard, who's our longtime coach, and his father,
Right.
Mike Shepard, who helped build this program. He is the gold standard, I like to say, in terms of a lot of things we do around here, because he's put together just a program that every year out is going to be really competitive. So every year baseball continues to do that. So a lot of our sports have a lot of great reasons to be excited. Our fans have a lot to be excited when they see our program in terms of the progress we're making and the success we've had. So our sports get me all of them get me excited, and we have a lot of great coaches, and we have a lot of new coaches in the last few years who have really brought a great deal of energy to our program.
How does it feel for you to be in leadership in the athletic department, to be a fan, to be an alum? There's so much intersection. I think it would be so different maybe for someone who doesn't feel like they came from the university. They're from that community. That community kind of, cultivated who they are as a working professional. So you've got the intersection of working professional, alum, your own Seton Hall story that spans so many years. How does that all come together in one day,
Mhm.
emotionally, energetically for you?
I think sometimes I have to. I don't know if I do it anymore. Maybe I've become immune to it, but it's funny that you ask that, because I look at it the way of, I walked around this campus. I walk around this campus days, and I'm like, oh man, I remember when I was a kid, I'd sit here, or I was in this position, or, like that memory, you can't shake that. That's always a part of, I have so many memories here. But then you're also a fan, right? I'm an alum. I've been a fan of this. I mean, this place is, as we talked about, I mean, of course, I'm a massive fan. But you have to kind of, again, you're also in a job that
Right.
requires you to be, you have to make decisions a certain way. You can't make them as a fan. You can't make
Mm,
them as an alum. You have to make them, as an athletic director. So
right.
you have to check yourself a little bit sometimes, I guess. But I think when I say I'm immune to it, I think when you lock yourself into the role, I think it kind of all becomes that other stuff just kind of falls to the side. Like people used to tell me all the time, how are you going to go to St. Peter's? Like you're a pirate. And I'm like, and my wife will tell you, my wife she had the hardest adjustment out of anybody when we went to St. Peter's, because she had to leave, because I was like, listen, you root for the paycheck at the end of the day. Like I'm a peacock, and I wear St. Peter's proudly, and I put all the Seton Hall stuff in a bin, and I put it away, because I was like, I know I'm always alone. This is my role, because in these jobs, these are I don't ever want, like, I have a great work-life balance, don't get me wrong, but these jobs, they will swallow you in the sense like this is your life. I mean, my
Yeah.
life is Seton Hall is a massive fabric of my everyday life.
Yeah.
My kids are part of it. My wife are part of it, because I think that helps, to be honest with you, my work-life balance. But so
Right.
you just embody it so much, because listen, it's nights, it's weekends. I mean, sports don't happen at, noon on a Tuesday. Like, what I'm saying? Like, so you
Right.
really have to kind of,
Right.
what I'm saying? Like I wish they did, trust me, it'd be great. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? So I think there's that aspect of it where it becomes part of who you are. And I don't mind that. I love that, because I love what I get to do. So
Yeah.
there's a balance to it, no doubt. But, it's easy when you love it as much as I do.
It's so interesting that you mentioned kind of like being able to break down those different compartments and live within, a particular compartment in a particular moment. Because, the energy can just, really take anybody. And there's so many things in your story that you mentioned that I think so many other alumni, including myself, can relate to. It's so funny because I found my way to Seton Hall also to pursue broadcast journalism.
Right.
And And then so I spent my years focused on that, went on to work in broadcast journalism, digital media, transitioned to advancement for a small high school that was my alma mater in Bayonne Marist High School, and then
Oh,
found myself at Seton Hall working in advancement as well. And so it's like so interesting the way that, kind of you envision maybe one career, one track for your profession, and then it takes you in another direction. And I found myself walking around Seton Hall every day saying, like, I remember just having all these flashbacks. I remember this, I remember this, I remember this. And you cannot not have the flashbacks, like they don't
yeah,
disappear, right? So it's so distinct from working at another place where you don't have such core memories, such
right.
transformative experiences. So it
Yeah,
really is an interesting thing that I think a lot of alumni who work at Seton Hall can relate to. Alumni who visit Seton Hall, of course, right? Like that's the
yeah,
experience that they're having as well. So many things that you mentioned, including the sense of community and the people being so pivotal in your experience. And I interview so many alumni, and the common thread all the time is like the sense of community that they felt at Seton Hall that was transformative for them. That was that was it, right? That's the hook. That's what brings you in.
mm,
And I want to transition to what that means for, a diehard Seton Hall community who's tracing back to all of their different experiences with the university. How do we encourage those folks to then make an investment in the overall betterment and community enrichment of the university? We're talking a lot about a practice facility that Seton Hall is campaigning for, and that being one of the ways that folks can support. What do you envision for the community in terms of support and investment in Seton Hall?
yeah. So before I get, that's a great question. So to your point, what you were saying earlier in your comments, which I really enjoyed, there are so many of us here.
Yeah,
We talk about me. We have, I mean, not only Sheen Holloway, Tony Bozzella, our women's basketball coach, JT Harper, our golf. I mean, we have coaches, administrators. We have over a quarter of the staff in our department are Seton Hall alum. So
yeah,
it makes what you talk about, I guess, easier in a sense, right? Because you have such a connection, you have such a love. And I've had people that aren't Seton Hall alums when they work that work here in our department that'll say to me, "I'm always amazed at how many of you went to Seton Hall here, and you work here." And I'm like,
yeah,
"Yeah, because you love if this is what this place will do to you, right? It's the people. You
right,
want to be around the people, but you love the place." So I think that kind of helps into the latter part of your question. We work really hard to recruit not only student athletes, but to recruit ambassadors and people to support our program.
right,
And it's an absolutely critical piece to any collegiate athletic programs. College athletics is such a great extension of a university. It represents a school in a certain way. I mean, we talk about basketball and football earlier, right? Those are on national TV all across the country. It's great marketing for Seton Hall University. I mean, we're on national television, 30, 40 times a year.
mm,
That's a big deal. So
right,
and knowing that everything we do, the way we carry ourselves, the way we represent ourselves represents the university. And we're trying to recruit support for all of these things, as Seton Hall does with alumni support it's so important. So specifically, as you mentioned, the practice facility, um, the university, I'm so thankful to Dr. Nair and his time here when he set forth the priorities of this campaign that we're kind of undertaking was, hey, we need priorities. What are our priorities? And the endowment was certainly one. A new
right,
student center was certainly one, which we now
yep,
have, which is absolutely
yeah,
spectacular,
super
and
exciting.
a basketball practice facility, because I think it was clear that basketball has always been a great part of what our institution represents. And listen, I tell people all the time, like, as we just said, it got me here. I say I don't know if I would have known without that. And so
Right,
it's important. So we're building this facility to not only support men's basketball and women's basketball, but to support the entire campus community. So
yep,
it encompasses much more than just a new basketball court and all the facilities that you need for the teams. But it'll also give us a new fitness center. We will reconfigure the structure, the setup in the fitness center, new flooring, new curtain system, all that kind of stuff. Women's basketball facilities will be enhanced. Men's basketball facilities will have this new space, and it really is important to the brand. It's important to our program and to our student athletes, and it helps us remain competitive in a very competitive world
yeah,
of the Big East basketball.
Hmm.
So it's important, and we've had some tremendous support. We broke ground just a few months ago. The project is underway. We expect it to hopefully wrap up in early 2025. It will be an absolute game changer for our program. And we've seen a lot of programs within our conference do this. Providence, Georgetown, Villanova, they have built very similar facilities in the last few years, and how helpful it can be. So I'm excited. I know our coaching staffs, our students are excited, and we need the continued support of our alumni to help make it a reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think about, you know, when you're there doing the work every day, focused on the task of the day, the strategy, you may not get a chance to kind of, or maybe you do. So this is the question, kind of fly above it all, right? Go all the way up and think about how years from now, fast forward years from now, you yourself will have been part of such a historic time in Seton Hall's advancement and development, and you play such a role in that. Do you ever think about that? And if you do, like, how does that make you feel? What is it like to, come out and say, in the future, this will be such a pivotal moment for Seton Hall, such a historic moment, and I'm part of building that.
I when you put it that way, it kind of hits me a little bit more, to be honest with you, because I don't know if I necessarily think that way. I think every day I want to make sure we're moving forward, though.
Yeah.
Every day this program's getting better somehow, or some shit. And listen, every day sometimes it's not every day a step forward. Maybe there's a step backwards that helps you take the two steps forward. The old adage. But
Absolutely.
but that's part of it. And every decision that I think we make here, and I certainly that I have to make, I'm always thinking about, well, how does this help us? How does this make us better? What does this do for our student athletes?
Yeah.
Really, at the end of the day, that is probably the most important question that I have to ask and answer myself. So yeah, I do I pitch myself, though, probably every now and then, and say, wow, you know what? Look where we've come. And maybe I got to play a little bit of a part in that. Yeah, sure. I think it's safe to say, to an extent. I mean, I've gotten to be around for some amazing accomplishments on this staff during my 16 years previously, and now certainly my what'll be almost 5 years now as the athletic director. Certainly every Big East championship we win kind of hits a little different, because you're like, oh wow, you know what? When a coach will tell you, you start out with this blank canvas when you build a team, or you do what you have to do, and then to reach that moment and winning a championship, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So those moments always kind of make you stop. Yeah, like as
Yeah.
to what you say, like, yeah, every now and then, sure. I suppose I do think that way. I try to think more of in the framework of, are we doing what's going to get us better today?
I love when you just answered that, because immediately I thought of the motto, right? Hazard set forward, always forward,
There it is.
despite any of the circumstances. And you're just embodying the motto that we're all taught to live by. And it's a strong one, and it's a good one.
Yeah, you're right.
And I want to ask, if alumni are listening, if anybody from the Seton Hall community is listening, what is the one takeaway that you want them to walk away from, or two takeaways you want them to walk away from today's conversation?
Well, I tell you, I hope people understand that the importance of an athletic department to the life of a university. And I think most of our alumni do. I really do. I've always felt that way. I think, when I get to go to games and see the excitement of our fan base in the crowds, or when I get to walk in an airport with a Seton Hall pirate on my chest and someone says, "Go Pirates," or when I'm in the supermarket, someone says, I love that's like that's the best, right? Because it's a rallying. We're the biggest. I think, athletics is such a great, rallying piece for any university. So I want people to understand that it's important. We need them to be part of that. Come to games, support our student athletes, come to games, support your alma mater, make contributions when you can. I get it. Everybody's going to have to pay their share of, trust me, I paid mine, right? In terms of student loans, and everybody's got bills. I get
Same
that.
here.
And I think about it all the time, like before I got into fundraising, I never had made a gift to Seton Hall. And I'm kind of like, why is that? I don't know why I wouldn't have ever thought of that. Like that, but it just, philanthropy sometimes isn't always top of mind for people. I get that. Trust me, I've been in fundraising a long time. I know it. And I think if anybody can get anything out of today's conversation, it's, a contribution sometimes doesn't always have to be fiscal. It can be showing up. It
Mhm.
can be coming to a game. It can be it can be being an ambassador, spreading the good word of what we're trying to do. Talk about this practice facility. Let people know about, hey, there's ways to get involved. Let people know about NIL now and how important that is to our lives of our student athletes and how can they help there. OnwardSatonia.com, by the way. And so, I mean, there's like a lot of ways that I want people to get that out of it, that there's so many ways that they can help and that their help is truly, truly needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Bryan, I have to ask you, in terms of the men's basketball season, are we taking this or not? Are we taking this?
You're going to learn one thing I learned in this job: you don't ever make predictions. So you're going to have a hard time backing into that corner. That will never go well for any athletic director.
I have to try.
I appreciate the effort. I have 3 children at home that can give you all the predictions you want. So don't worry. I have to deal with them when I get home. They're my harshest critics.
Bryan, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the show. I have learned a tremendous amount. Thank you for talking us through, your journey and what it's been like, the work that you do, the contributions you make to the Seton Hall community, the contributions the Seton Hall community makes back to you and to the department. So it's been really great. Thank you for taking the time out to chat with us. And we're looking forward to having you back on the show, because I think there's so many more directions that we can go in.
Absolutely. Always happy to do that. This has been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate all you do, and I appreciate the podcast. And I thank you for the opportunity. And as always, go Pirates.
That's right. Bryan is one of more than 100,000 alumni who demonstrate what great minds can do with a Seton Hall education. Remember to stay up to date with all of Seton Hall's alumni engagement opportunities. Share the news of this podcast with your friends. Be sure to follow us on social media at Seton Hall Alumni. And of course, if you know of a Pirate we should have our eye on, do not hesitate to email us at alumni@shu.edu. Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll join me for the next episode of the Seton Hall Pirates Eye podcast.